Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, we get back on the roller coaster that was a Red Raider win over Oral Roberts from United Supermarkets Arena. And for the Red Raider football team, the offensive line and defensive line impacted by an opt-out and an opt-in. We get into it all next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, we got a couple of different fronts to hit here today. We'll get to some football news coming up. You got size out, you got size remaining as it relates to the future for Joey McGuire and the Red Raiders. But let's start on the hardwood with Grant McCasland and the Red Raider men's basketball team, who survived quite an interesting one last night against Oral Roberts at United Supermarkets Arena. We talked about not sleeping on this matchup. Obviously, ORU had a great season a year ago and has got some continuity and culture there entrenched upon which they move forward. And what we saw out of the gates was something along the lines of, to use an industry term, can't hit water if you fall out of a boat for both teams. I don't know how bad it got, but I remember you noting on the broadcast 5 of 25 at one point in time. But then at some point, and that was for both, then at some point, the worm really turned because it was almost like you got a maintenance crew out there to widen the rim or something. I don't know what happened, but en fuego then became the term of the day as both teams were connected from long range. And for the most part, that was sustained, and what led us to a final score that I guess is a little bit closer than you might have anticipated just a few minutes earlier before the final buzzer went off. But quite the roller coaster. But at the end of the day, a win for Texas Tech as they survive a matchup against a team that has really given some other Power 5 squads some fits.
Yeah, you have to earn it against Oral Roberts. I mean, they do. They have really good guard play, and anytime a team makes 16 threes, 16, you look at it and go, we've got to do a better job of guarding the perimeter, which is what Grant McCasland was like. He was, I'm stating an obvious here, but we need to guard the perimeter a bit better, just a wee bit. But yeah, and what was strange about this one is that last night it wasn't Pop Isaacs or Joe Toussaint or Isaac McBride for the Golden Eagles, and then obviously the two Red Raider guards that were really pouring them in, which you would think that those would be, guys. These are I think the three top scorers that were participating in this game on average, and they just didn't shoot it well from the perimeter. It was other guys that did it. Kerwin Walton. I hope that at the end of this year that we look back and go, man, what a fun story this was, because this is just a couple of games now, back to back. They're non-conference home games. The gauntlet is still very much, on the horizon, and you're going to deal with it on the road and all those things. However, I've seen more from Kerwin Walton in a positive way in the last couple of games, with not just the shot making, but just some of the other things that he does in the last two games, and we've really seen in the first year plus that he was here. And I think he had a really good game against LSU last year in that Big 12 SEC Challenge game in Baton Rouge, but this has been kind of fun to watch. He just seems so much, and that was the difference largely for Texas Tech last night. That and Warren Washington's ability on the glass to. With the lobs and just handling his business on the glass with that big time double-double.
Yeah, one of his best efforts as a Red Raider so far. We'll get back to Washington in just a moment, but Walton is just it kind of blows you away, and we'll see what he can do as the season goes on, and obviously you get into much tougher competition. But he was like Dario mode last season, just maybe a handout here every once in a while. I mean, he was a total non-factor, save for maybe a game, but I don't even really remember that one. was a non-factor. And one of the more frustrating, I think, as far as factors or non-factors this season to go, because of his path to Texas Tech and NIL and all these things. You're like, all right, when are we going to squeeze some juice out of this thing? I said earlier in the year, he'd been like an oven that was on preheat for a year and we're ready to cook. Well, the chef is in the kitchen now and he's cooking for a little bit. So we hope that that can be sustained, because that would be a very pleasant surprise and something that coming into the year, I certainly didn't, imagine as something consistently going to be there for Texas Tech. And of course, without Cambridge, although they're not really similar as players, you need all the help you can get. So maybe it is something we can maybe expect to be seen again.
And the thing about Kerwin, I think Grant McCasland would tell you, it's a credit to the young man, because he hasn't acted entitled. He hasn't acted frustrated about like his lack of minutes. He shows up with a smile on his face every day. And man, in the youth these days, high school, college, middle school kids, like players, this is rare. Trust me. This is rare for him to just keep working and keep like with a good attitude and not wanting to point fingers or, hey man, I'm getting hosed, man, and I'm not getting more minutes, or this is the coach is out to get me, whatever. And he just and I think Grant would tell you this is one of the reasons why he's kind of blossoming right now, because he shows up and he's practiced hard every day, good attitude. He's trying to get over the hump, and now there's this opportunity, and he was in the starting lineup last night against Oral Roberts and replacing Devin Cambridge there. And you're right, they're not the same player, because I think Devin is a lot more versatile. And he's much better on defense. However, the trade-off is that when you have, Kerwin on the floor, the way he's playing right now, I think you're harder to guard on the offensive end, because if you've got Chance McMillan on one wing, Kerwin Walton on another, one of them's hit 6 or 8 threes in Butler, the other one hit 6 of 7 from 3 the other day. And you've got Joe or Pop like anywhere with the ball, and you got Warren Washington as a lob threat. Like, who do you guard, and where do you put your attention? I mean, that's a stressful type of lineup out there. And then Darion Williams was banging threes last night, and then posting up and kind of facilitating like out of the post or trying to score. That was kind of a new wrinkle that we had seen with him, the backing down. So I think that. Kerwin, if he'll keep it up, I mean, it's going to make you a tougher guard if those shots continue to fall, for sure.
Man, and I got to tell you, as far as just the team in general, there are still so many things that maybe get kind of lost in the wash for, a fan here or there that are standing out to me. Back in the turnover column with the healthy number, only 8 there, and really both teams were doing a decent job of taking care of the basketball last night. You were close to, not quite a 2-to-1 turnover margin last night, but close to it. As far as assist to turnovers, I'm sorry, swapping my football cliches, not the football portion of the program just yet. But I was taking a look last year, Chris, just to remind myself coming out of the gates, your turnover numbers out of the gate last year, 20, 12, 20, 9, that's nice for just a moment, 16, 10, 19, 18. I mean, it was just like, who wants a basketball? You get a basketball. They went Oprah Book Club with the turnovers last season. And I don't know where you can go this year. I don't know if you're deep enough, talented enough to even get in the NCAA tournament. I don't know. But that speaks to me about something that the coaching staff is getting out of their team, especially, and maybe I just had too low of expectations, but I would say especially with as many new pieces that are having to play together and kind of figure out chemistry and synergy. That's a good omen for the future. I don't care what else we're talking about that we may not like so much right now. If you're doing things like that, I think that those are details, and those little things add up to big things. And got to credit the guys on the floor, obviously, but I also want to credit the coaching staff as well, because I think those things are connected in a statistical category like that.
Well, something something clearly changed with this team early on in their trip to the Bahamas, because really since then, it's in this stat category, it's been vastly different. And in some stressful situations. Last night being one of them, at Hinkle Fieldhouse there, when you're playing Butler, you played a Michigan team, the Northern Iowa team that you went to the buzzer with and beat those guys. You've had some good games, but you're right. I mean, like last night, Joe Toussaint and Pop Isaacs played a total of, I think, 64 minutes. They total 3 turnovers combined between them. That's just that will travel. That is something that no matter what else you do, whether the shots go in or out, whether whatever it is, that is good basketball, and it's a credit to Joe and Pop, and you're right, like Grant and Coach Smart and everybody kind of associated with this deal, Coach Breyer. I mean, everybody that has kind of changed this dynamic a bit, but it also speaks to older, mature guards, and one like Joe Toussaint, who's got the ball in his hands a ton. But credit to Pop Isaacs too, man, because Pop would he'll take some chances and try to thread a needle and try to throw a pass, and the teammate may not be looking for it or whatever. But he's since, I think what Grant has talked about, he's since most of the time just made the simple play, and it pays off. Because here's the other thing, 9 assists, between those two. And you don't want to gloss over that part either, because those are, assist means that there was a score, and so you have 9 assists to 3 turnovers when you play 64 minutes combined. I just think that's good stuff against really good guards with Oral Roberts. And Isaac McBride, man, this is a kid that was averaging like 20 a game coming in. He scored 20 points, like 5 of the last 6 or something, and you really did a number on him. Joe and Pop deserve some credit there, because I think he was 3 of 14 from the field and just really never got going. And that was the guy that you were kind of focused on. So credit them on the defensive end as well.
Defense and protecting the basketball, that dog will hunt, home or away. You had 4 games last year where you were in a single-digit turnover category, 4, and now you've had 4 of your previous 5. You've already matched that, and we're sitting here on December 13th. So again, symptoms of like a healthy program or a sick program that may not have anything to do with talent again, or depth, or how far you can go, but some early encouraging signs of what the coaching staff is getting out of this team, and you love to see it.
Calvin, you need to tweet that out. That's a great stat. That speaks to a lot of issues last year with who's handling it and what are we doing, and then this year how much that's been cleaned up, because with all the new pieces, that is quite a stat right there that you just dropped on the turnover category. But a lot of people deserve some credit this year. But man, I would not have guessed that at all.
That's why you watch Locked On Texas Tech, because I'm not wasting that on X, baby. This is for you in the audience. YouTube podcast every day. Make sure you're subscribed. Okay, let me pull out my bag of football cliches so we can pivot here and look ahead to the Independence Bowl. And one guy we know is not going to be there. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Heat up the action and keep the sports flames stoked this winter with America's #1 sportsbook and the official sportsbook of Locked On. There's nothing nicer than cuddling up by the warmth of a nice prop bet or a player parlay. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action with their safe, secure, and easy-to-use app where it's all at your fingertips. And of course, when you win with FanDuel, you're always paid instantly. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 back if your team wins. You'd be a fool not to take a bite out of that apple. So get to FanDuel.com/lockedon and sign up today for your shot at $150 in bonus bets with any $5 money line bet that hits with FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. And look ahead to the Independence Bowl. And one guy we know is not going to be there. That being Myles Cole, you might have seen opting out of the bowl game to focus on the NFL draft is what I saw reported. I got to tell you, this one hit me in kind of a strange way.
He's in Miami, so it's hitting him.
Is that right?
It's hitting him in a strange way too. He's on South Beach training. Sure, Shreveport. Here's the weird thing. You know where this kid's from originally?
I couldn't tell you.
Shreveport. He had a chance in his last game to essentially play at home, friends, family, and all that stuff. But yeah, I think I think 7 to 10 days ago, peaced out. I'm gonna go get my my combine training on and Yeah, he's in Miami, man.
Well, I mean, I know that very few things in a football game can get a scout's attention like shuttle drills on the beach. So I guess I'll understand that. I really am conflicted about this, and I don't like much of it. I mean, Myles Cole is unfortunately leaving this season as he came in, Mr. Measurable, but the impact or the statistics did not bubble to the surface like we hoped they would. And I don't get how you improve or focus, quote unquote, on the draft or improve your draft stock not playing football, especially when you've had a season that was for the most part not impactful as far as that. Now he's going to get a chance, I'm sure, because again, the measurables, he hasn't shrunk. His wingspan hasn't gotten smaller or anything like that. But as a fan, I'm not into this move. More power to him. Make your own choice for what you got to do for your professional interest. I understand it, but I'm very confused by it because I just feel like you want to turn some heads. I don't know, play a football game and maybe make some plays and get some attention that way. But I guess at the end of the day, the measurables are just going to win out. And he probably knows that. I'm sure the feedback he's gotten from those in NFL circles is like, yeah, we don't care if you play in Shreveport or not. Again, your wingspan is your wingspan. Your size is your size.
Yeah, I think the deal. I think he was on the up and up with it. He didn't just cruise. I mean, he did have conversations with everybody, thanked everybody before he kind of left town and all those things. There's a lot of awkward. We're about to get into one here in a little bit to finish up the show, but there's a lot of awkwardness or a lot of strange things the way college football plays out from a personnel standpoint in the 2023 timeframe, and the opt-outs in the bowl games is just something that's becoming fairly normal. I mean, I think I saw there's 41 bowl games, so like something what is that, 82 teams, and you've got I think 30 quarterbacks of the 82 teams will not participate in their bowl game that would have started. I mean, and
Wow.
it's just trickled down. But I guess in a way, I'm thankful that he's the only one that opted out because, I mean, Tyler Owens, Rabbit, a couple of your corners, and I don't think Hutchins plays in this game. And we'll talk about that as we get just because of his same issue. But I think that he missed that Texas game. I think that there was a scare with that knee, and he's obviously got a future to look forward to, but there's also an injury there with him. But yeah, no Myles Cole, man. So
I mean, the injury is understandable, but I more look at like guys, I guess, that are opting out as, I mean, like high level picks that don't want to risk a high level pick going to the who gives a what bowl, which most of them are. I mean, I get like, yeah, we want to compete. We want to win the game. Anytime you're strapping it on, it matters to you. But I don't know. This doesn't fit in either one of those categories. So anyway, more power to him. Unfortunately, didn't work out like we hoped at Texas Tech, but maybe we'll see him flash in the National Football League. Okay, let's get awkward, baby. That's my middle name as we wrap up this conversation. I'm actually surprised to hear you use that word, so I'm excited to hear you expand upon what you mean by that. First, today's episode brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. And if you've got a small business looking to hire new employees, you're hoping for the biggest pool of top-tier candidates possible. And that's exactly why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn has all the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free, all on one easy-to-use and secure platform. And LinkedIn isn't just another job board. They've got a far-reaching network of more than 1 billion professionals, and hiring the best becomes easy when you have that many qualified candidates. So easy that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within only 24 hours. With all the hats you wear as a business owner, the time or resources to hire quality candidates can be hard to come by, but LinkedIn carries the load for you with the quick, easy, and intuitive process. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free today with LinkedIn Jobs. Terms and conditions apply. Caleb Rogers will be returning in 2024. Chris, okay, so I just want to see if I can set the table here. This is COVID eligibility he's taking advantage of, right? Is this a super senior year coming up?
Yes, I believe that is accurate. And what I meant by awkward is that there was a day and a time where it's like, well, of of course you're coming back. I mean, like what choices are there? And now we are getting announcements of like, I'm returning.
Graphic.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and so thankfully you are. This is just the way it goes these days. It's kind of like I remember last year. After the bowl game, it's like you're immediately like one of the questions that he answered it on the podium, but it was like Tyler Shuck, will you be back? And he's like, put that cowboy hat on. He's like, I'll be back. That kind of deal. And because with a lot of these guys, it's not just I'll be back like in college, but I'll be back here. It's almost like two separate things.
That's true.
But I would offer up this with your current situation on the offensive line, as you are in the midst of portaling and trying to add some pieces, and the variety of starters, graduating or exhausting their eligibility after this bowl game, like Dennis Wilburn, like Rusty Stats, like Cole Spencer, and we know Monroe Mills has left the chat. I mean, you could make the argument that Caleb Rogers is, and I know people have lots of opinions about Caleb Rogers, or they have had over the years. I do think he's gotten better as time has gone along. He's got a lot of juice and energy, and he's a culture guy. He would be one of the guys like Taj Brooks and Baron Morton and like a Jacob Rodriguez and a Bryce Ramirez and a small circle like going forward that I would think Joey would consult with on whatever it may be team decision wise. But Caleb Rogers, you're going to make the argument, and we can do that as the summer goes along. He's going to be one of your most either valuable or important players just because of his experience and how vulnerable and thin or weak you are at that position right now, and again, we could fast forward in a couple of weeks, you could have 3 or 4 portal entries and go, all right, but he's the one mainstay. He's the one guy, because you played him at left tackle, you played him at right tackle. There's some talk if you get the right pieces, they may move him inside and play guard. I mean, he's very versatile, but he's an energy guy and a culture guy. But he's the one yelling to Joey, run the bleeping ball, And Joey listened, and Taj is like, thanks, Caleb. I appreciate that.
Let's get him wired into Morton's headset as well, maybe for the bowl game, make a few calls. I saw 41 consecutive starts. Now the most that since Jalen Hutchings will be out of the picture. Now that's the tops on the list. And yeah, the energy, it seems like he's looked at as a leader. Measurables are mostly there. Not the biggest dude ever, but measurables mostly there. But just like you said, they've had to continue to move him around to find like, okay, where can we stick this guy? And now you're saying again, possibly that he could be moved to the inside. None of those things are promotions. You don't go from left to right as a promotion. You don't go from outside to inside as a promotion, I don't think, as an offensive lineman. So I wonder what has yet to connect for him that would make him like an all-conference player, because it seems like he's always had that potential, but we hadn't quite gotten there.
Yeah, I think with him, I think that he may translate more as a guard at the next level, hence the reason they may finish his career out there.
Gotcha.
That may be what the NFL folks are saying. Hey, man, you're more of an inside guy. But also, if they get what they want, it may be about, well, these other guys are just better at these other spots. Caleb can help us by playing an interior because we need some interior help too. Because next year, as it stands right now, you would think, Jacoby Jackson would be one of your interior guys. But I do know, he's battled a few injuries, and Ty Buchanan would be a starting tackle. But Dalton Merriman, I think that they really like is in the program and had to sit out the Blinn College kid who's, I think, 6'7", 6'8". There's some more length and all that at tackle, I think, and then you hope to add some of that. So if they do, I think that allows you to move Caleb to, but it's always like, hey man, if it's best that he's at left tackle or right tackle, that's what they'll do. But Ty Buchanan, I think, is best suited for left tackle. So if you can find an upgrade or a better version of right tackle, then I think it allows you to move Caleb inside. And I wouldn't even rule out, because you know what else you need that is fairly important as a center. Sheridan Wilson has kind of been your backup center. I mean, is there a scenario to where Caleb Rogers could play center? I think it's a compliment that speaks to his versatility. But yeah, I get what you're saying. But I think that when they get draft grades and they go through this process, they may have stated, this is what most teams project you as at the next level. If you have some hopes of doing that is more in one of those 3 interior spots. So we'll see.
That's a good point. I hadn't really considered. I guess I'm more so just going hard and like, okay, where are they lining you up first? The choice is be great at that, or let's shuffle you around a little bit. That maybe is more of a pessimistic outlook. So that's an interesting perspective to consider. And
it's not if the glass is half full or if it's half empty. It's about who's pouring the water, Calvin.
And what does she look like? What's your bank statement read? Before we get out of here, since we're on the subject of offensive line, we had someone asking a question yesterday. I think it was on X. He was on X. No, it was on Twitter. He was clean. Okay. Whoever his employer is. I don't know that he's on anything in particular. He said, should we hit the panic button about the offensive line? Because I know this is a focus. So when you're not seeing a bunch of news, I asked you maybe a week ago, 5-6 days ago, sort of in the same way. I don't know that it's panic button time, but we need some news, Chris. And I know that you're not holding it in your pocket. But what do you think's going on internally? Is there some concern that you've missed on some guys? Just some timelines lingering? What do you think?
Okay, so it's too early to panic. I think there's continues to be, this shocked me, but like one of OU's stud freshmen, either redshirt or true freshman that played on the offensive line that is probably going to be highly sought after out there in the marketplace, just entered the portal like a day ago. Mm-hmm. And nobody on the team was aware. I mean, it was just totally. So again, there's continues to be entries and continue to be entries at the offensive line position. I think it's been reported that the Colorado budget for offensive line is very high. There's a couple of targets that you've. I've heard it on talk radio. I've heard it on seen it written. I've seen it speculated about. But Dion, that's where he's putting his NIL chips, is like the building a group up front that can protect his kid. And some of the rumors have been, here's your offer. If you stand up and leave this meeting, this offer is no longer here. We need an answer, kind of scenario. Like while we have you in town, here's your offer. However, if you leave, we're moving on to the next one. We need to know. And so I don't what's true, what's not, but there's heavy speculation. And we obviously, heard from Matt Rule, about what quarterbacks are worth and all that. So all I'm saying is, I forget that kid's name at Oklahoma. I'm really fascinated to see where he ends up. And does Oklahoma have an opportunity to match? Point is, it's not too early. You don't need to panic yet. We still have the rest of this portal cycle, another cycle, and all that. They continue to guys continue to enter, guys continue to be offered. Mm-hmm. What's tricky for Texas Tech right now, as it stands, as you and I sit here and talk, is that on this day you were headed to Shreveport for bowl prep, playing Saturday night. The rest of the country that's not playing in bowl games this week has these days and this weekend to host portal visitors. You are missing that time. That is a bit of an unlucky break for you in playing an earlier bowl game. And so some of this may have to get done via Zoom. Some of it may have to get done after the first of the year when it's kind of quiet period. There may need to be some tricky recruiting from the standpoint of just trying to bridge the gap of like, hey man, we'd love to have you. Trust me, it's awesome here, even though you can't get here. But that's a different dynamic. So, but yeah, don't panic yet. But yeah, it's a need. Make no mistake about it. Receiver, there's some things about to happen with receiver, but offensive line, I just think what people are seeing is that the market value. This is what Joey was talking about. I think the other day, for offensive linemen, quality offensive linemen is a lot higher out there than anybody would have thought. Maybe this is why Monroe Mills was like, I think I'm going to go see what's out there. And what's funny is I think he's still out there, unless I've missed something. I mean, could you boomerang him back? I don't know. It's wild, but
Yeah.
that's my thoughts right now.
Hey, we found a few more wooden nickels under a couch cushion, Monroe. Maybe we want to talk again, or maybe expectation has returned to some sort of mean. I don't know. That's crazy. And here, my diabolical mind is already just thinking, all right, when does the first team opt out of the bowl game entirely? Because we got to get to Cruton, boys. We need a portal weekend more than we need a bowl game. I'm sure that's an extreme example, but this is college football after all. Is there any example that's too extreme? I don't know. And maybe on the other side of some of these bowl games as well, you'll continue to see rosters change, guys leave programs, et cetera. So I think that's a good point to make, that you never know who is popping back up. It wasn't like at some point we've already passed, okay, this is the finite amount of offensive linemen that are available, and there will be no more. Clearly that is not the case. But, since it is objective number one, fans getting a little antsy, we understand that, but do with that what you will. Okay, we're back on the other side, and we are, in a serious, serious way. I'm tying my tie even tighter tomorrow, looking towards Independence Bowl time. Red Raiders and Golden Bears. Got another hoops contest to get ready for this weekend as well, so we'll have that coming up before we're done this week. Chris, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoyed it, and we'll see you for the next one.
I enjoyed it as well. We will do this again. Keep hope alive, everybody. Guns up and all that good stuff, and head on the swivel.
Always your taglines. The list is going to grow during this period of time. We got to continue to remind everyone of all these things. Yeah. And here's another one. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks for joining us. We hope to see you back here for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.